Welcome to another episode of XR Talk Show. I had some mistake earlier, so I'm 4 minutes late. Sorry about that. And um, so I'm not sure what's the topic today. Julian Assange has been arrested about 8 hours ago. About 3 o'clock. Well, yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning here. So that is like 8 hours ago. Uh, that's too bad, but hopefully something good will come out of it. And today, so let's see how many people are watching. Zero. Okay. Yeah, because I did some mistakes earlier, and so what are we gonna talk about today? So there are, a lot of topics. Uh, if you just type a topic in the talk in the box. Hey guys, 3 people, great. Let me pop the window out. So, hi guys, what we gonna talk about today? Go to the XR Talk Show page and pick a topic. Like I'm not feeling like. Well, you pick a topic because today. Hi, good morning, Isaac. Um, good morning, good morning. So Isaac, so what topic to talk about today? Technical, first of all, technical and or non-technical. And so if technical, then is it? Would you like to be learning languages? Okay, learning programming languages or English language, like natural languages, human languages. Uh, Learning languages. I think you mean English, like natural languages, right? Because that's one of the topics I have here. Refresh. Uh, yeah, so many language, so many topics here. Learning a language. Yeah, okay. Okay, so great. Thank you. So let's talk about that. Uh, so well, you are Chinese, right? Well, you were born in USA, or a lot of people like to learn a language. Well, for example, in Chinese people in China or Taiwan, they want to learn English. And Americans usually don't learn ABC, American born Chinese. Okay. So, usually American don't learn, they, so-called people ridicule American, like US Americans, as monolingual, speaks only one language, which is actually true. But that is also, there is a reason for that, because USA, it's like the most powerful powerful country. And typically, when you want to learn another language, you usually want to learn, people want to learn, the language of the powerful country, and that's USA. So we don't have to learn another language. But also, another important reason is that USA is just this big land between oceans. There's no other countries. I mean, other than Mexico below, and Canada speaks English, so there is no need. I mean, need is the mother of everything. So you Americans, USA Americans, you don't really have a need. First of all, your language, your country is our country is the most powerful in the world, and our language is the international language basically. And we don't have neighbors that don't, we basically don't have neighbors except Mexico. So we don't have the need to learn another language. Well, they say in school, in high school or universities, usually there's a requirement to learn another language. But yeah, but that's just academic talk. In practice, nobody really actually learned much of any other language. In contrast to Europe, for example, Europe, you got this bunch of countries, English. Uh, well, UK is English, English, German, Italian, French, and other countries, and other places. For example, in China, China is also one giant big land, but China is not, or was not, one of the most powerful countries. So they had to learn English. In fact, a lot of Chinese people and Taiwan people, or you learn English as a second language because, excuse me, that extends your, you know, when you do business, it extends your power. So, okay, let me talk about how to learn a language. Okay, now I'm also talking to Chinese people who like to learn English because I have a lot of Chinese followers. Now, when you want to, now this is from my experience and also from my readings. Okay, when you learn a language, notice there's listening skills, there's a listening skills, listen and speaking skills. And you have reading and writing. Now, first of all, you want to note that this reading and writing versus listening and speaking is entirely different thing, almost to the degree that almost they have nothing to do with each other. Now, if you are a nerd, okay, typically if you are an introvert or programmer, type of people, uh, you tend to be focused on reading and writing skills. A lot of Chinese people, in fact, in China or Taiwan, they learned English. They can write perfect English, and they can read, English, but they cannot speak, and they don't understand when you talk to them. I mean, yeah. So there's a big difference. Well, if you are introvert, you tend to learn, by the grammar, or vocabulary, reading skills, and then you get into writing skills, but they are entirely different from listening and speaking skills. Like it's like totally different in the sense not just for learning, but actually it has to do with linguistics, how languages are. Because if you look at the words languages, of course, every languages you can speak it, but often languages do not have a way to write it down. There's no writing system for the language. The writing system developed later, sometimes much later, like 1,000 years later. And if you look at all the world's languages, often there are few writing systems they borrow. For example, you can write Chinese actually in Latin alphabet in English, and you can write, the Arabic alphabet is used by many languages to write their language, the Arabic alphabet. Let's go to let's show Unicode. So Arabic, so Tibetan, so Arabic, yeah. So this is called Arabic script. They are not an alphabet yet. So writing systems of the words. First of all, you have what's so called a script. Then from this script, this is Arabic script, for example. From this script, you have alphabets, like part of it or whole of it makes one alphabet. Then another language may pick another alphabet. So you have Arabic alphabet. So anyway, Arabic language, Arabic script is used in uh, uh, Arabic language, and it's a writing system for Arabic language, but also as well for Persian, and for all these languages, Persian, Kurdish, Azerbaijani, Sydney, for a bunch of languages, and Turkish, and even for Spanish, for a period of time, Spanish is written in Arabic script. And these languages, they are not in the same family. Not like some of the languages, or even though their writing system use the same system, like looks the same to if you don't know the language. But however, the languages are not from may not be from the same family, like totally different languages. They share not almost nothing, but they use the same writing system. And in the same way, Japanese writing system borrows lots of Chinese characters. You see Japanese, for example. This is let's go to Japanese, Greek, Chinese, Japanese. Oops. Uh, these are Japanese phonetic systems. That's part of the Japanese writing system. But however, Japanese also uses um, Chinese characters. Let me show you. So for example, Japanese writing system is composed of phonetic alphabet, which are these, red and blue, both of them, and Chinese characters, and English alphabets. In fact, Japanese writing system, they include, English alphabet is like part of the Japanese writing system. So if you read Japanese newspapers, you will see that this is a percentage. 41% of them is Chinese characters. 36, so 41%, 40% is Chinese, and 40% is actually the Japanese phonetics, these called hiragana and katakana. And the rest is like 13% punctuations. So you got 1% English letters. So anyway, so that's Japanese writing system, and Japanese and Chinese, they are completely different languages. They have nothing in common. Like they don't share a root. So for example, that's Japanese. And let's look at another example. Let's look at oh, wait a second. Here is the example text of Japanese from Wikipedia. Now you can see some of these characters. I can read them, like this one. Uh, this one, basically the complex looking ones. Let me magnify. Hold on a second. So that one. So this one means actually, let me copy it here so you can see in Emacs. Go to here, open a new buffer, paste, enlarge, enlarge. So these two, actually, let's make it HTML. Okay, so for example, these two highlight phrase highlights. Anyway, so these two characters, these two characters means machine. These two characters means finger. This character means press. Okay, like pressing it down. And I'm just reading the characters I know. That's which are Chinese. These four characters means symbols and signals. These two characters means delivery and mail. This character means sample. These two uh, means writing system. These two means basic. These two means machine. And these four characters means operating on the whole thing. And this character means use. So you see, I know them because they are Chinese characters. They are borrowed, from 1,000 years ago, something like that, from China. And so before that, Japanese do not have a writing system. For maybe 1,000 years or something, Japanese, like the language do not have a writing system. You cannot write it down. You can talk, but you cannot write it down. So, but Japanese, borrowed the Chinese characters. Then they started to use Chinese characters as their writing system, even the two languages are entirely different. And then they created their phonetic system, which is these parts. Those are Japanese phonetics. Phonetics is like alphabets uh, designed to represent sound. So these are Japanese phonetics, hiragana and katakana. And where does this came from? They are invented based on they take part of Chinese character, and I mean they are created. So they are based on Chinese characters. They take part of the Chinese characters, then they assign a sound to it, and that's the origin of the Japanese phonetic system, hiragana and katakana. So yeah, so that's an example where the writing system, how the language is written down is entirely, almost entirely has nothing to do with the language itself. So that's an example of Japanese. Another good example is uh, Cyrillic. I think it's pronounced Cyrillic, but I never know how to pronounce it. Hey Danielle, hey Danielle Langlois. So let's see how we pronounce Cyrillic. Uh, okay, like usually Wikipedia has magnify. Usually Cyrillic. Okay, it's pronounced Cyrillic because there is the international phonetic alphabet here, Cyrillic. Okay, so the Cyrillic script are these, and the Russian, the Russian alphabet is based on it. So it's used in these countries by Russia, and it's used in all these languages. So it's used in Belarusian, Bulgarian, Macedonian, Russian, Russian, Serbo-Croatian, and so on, Ukrainian, and these, I cannot. It's hard to even pronounce them, but notice, and even used for Mongolian, Romani, and so on. But notice that these two groups of languages are entirely different. So Russian and so on they are Slavic languages, and the other one are the other group of languages are not non-Slavic. So they don't share the same root. So I mean, so my point is, so the writing system, how a language is written down is entirely different from the language itself. Yeah. So when you learn a language, first of all, know that writing and reading is an entirely different skill than listening and speaking. Now, depending on what's your goal in learning a language, okay. Good morning, Duncan. Depending on what's your goal in learning a language, you might focus on one aspect than the others. For example, if you want to travel, right, or if you want to do business, then your goal is probably listening and speaking skills. That's the part you want to focus more. Um, if you are a nerd, or if you are an academic, you read all day like me, just read, you don't go out, or you program, then you are more inclined to focus on reading and writing. You can read all the history of Japanese, read all the history of German, language, or Spanish, uh, yeah, but they are entirely different skills. So the next subject is to how do you learn them? Yeah, first of all, decide which one you want to focus. Don't think that you just read a lot. Let's say I'm going to learn let's say I'm going to learn Russian. Okay, I don't know nothing about Russian. So I'm going to, like typically I would, start to read Wikipedia and, start to read novels, try to look up words, vocabulary, That's one thing, but I will not be able to understand when Russian, in here talks to me. It will be hard, even though whatever the person says, if he write it down, I'll understand everything. But if he doesn't write it down, I would have a hard time to kind of, like it's a skill. Listening is a skill. You have to kind of you want to be able to understand what they say. Like I mean, usually they don't say it slowly. Like in reading and writing, you can always take your time to look up dictionary. The word is fully spelled. But in real conversation, they are not going to stop and spell it for you. You have so it's a skill listening and speaking. So it's a different skill. So if you are a businessman or something or traveling, you want to pick up the listening and speaking skills, which is more suitable for for extrovert type of people, social social people, social butterfly. In fact, a lot of people, you know, I think most people are actually more extrovert than introvert. Nerds are introvert, and introvert is a smaller percentage of the population. Most people, for majority of the people, they like to talk to people. They don't have in they don't feel shy or things like that. So listening and speaking skills. Now, okay, so first of all, decide which part you want to focus. Don't think that you can just learn to read and you'll be able to speak well or listen well. No, that's not true at all. Because I learned English, I'm a nerd, I'm an introvert, and I learned English mostly by looking up dictionaries, brute force, just look up, words 100 times a day. But I cannot understand news. When the TV is on, the anchor, talk. I don't understand more than 60% of it, like 80% of it. After 3 years, I don't understand, because they speak too fast. But okay, I always whenever I watch American movies, this is like 30 years ago. I watch American movies or TVs. I always want the subtitle because that's power to me. Because I read the subtitle, then I understand. Each one. I can pause. And I understand each word. But when they are talking, I don't understand. So because of this habit, that's damaging. Because then it then my listening skills and speaking skills they kind of stagnated. Because so yeah, so make sure you want to learn. Focus on the part you want. In fact, I would say listening and speaking skill is actually the more important one, because that is what language is about. Writing system doesn't come up until and even today some languages do not have a writing system. I think that's true. Yeah, some languages do not even have a writing system. Writing system is like secondary. They came after the first requirement, the development. The origin of language is to speak. You talk to people, you see face to face, you speak, you communicate. That's the first. That's probably actually what you should focus more, especially for nerds, because you don't talk to people. So for many people, they are natural. They talk to people, and you. Okay, so let me talk about how to do it. How to learn these two skill, to reading and writing, and listening and speaking. But first, let me read the comments. So Duncan says studied German, then later Japanese during school, but forgot 95% of it due to not using them. Yeah, that's correct. Because if you don't use them, you lose them. When I was younger, I thought muscle building. Like, I was into that and kung fu. Um, how they call that, muscle building, bodybuilder. Yeah, bodybuilding. It's kind of an idiom. Bodybuilding. You build your muscles. Those muscle men. Mr. Universe, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, once you have that muscle, and if you don't keep building it after like half a year, in fact, it goes away very fast after just a few months. If you don't exercise, all your muscle, the bulk, they go away. Yeah. So when I first learned that, many years ago when I was younger, I was surprised that, oh man, it went away. So if you want the muscles, you have to keep working on it every day. So in a similar way, if you don't use it, it goes away. However, it does not go away 100%. Like once you know how to ride a bike, if you haven't done so for 20 years, you still have some kind of muscle memory. You just have to go back to it. Then after a month, for bicycles, after a few days, you'll get it. Same thing. I think it's the same thing with programming languages and natural language as well. If for example, I programmed in Perl for many years, but now if you ask me to code, say, I can, if you ask me to code some simple program in Perl, I wouldn't know how to write a loop. You forgot. You have to, you know, but you have to look up, but mostly the skill. I mean, there's still memory in it. So if you know a language, you haven't used it for many years, but you can pick it up much faster, than if you are new, like 10 times faster, because you still have that memory. But anyway, so yeah, that's one thing. You don't use them, that's why in America, most people do not speak other languages, because you don't there's no need. I mean, except maybe Spanish. There's a lot of Spanish people in America. So if you have Spanish friends or girlfriends or boyfriends or neighbors, you can um, exercise that. I learned Spanish, actually. I learned Spanish when I was in Paraguay, South America, for like 1 year, 1.5 year, and Central America. So when I was 16, I learned fairly, some Spanish, for 1 year, over a year. But now it's like, it's all forgotten. Uh, So Danielle says writing being entirely different from the language itself is a rather strange distinction. Danielle says, I think you might be emphasizing that written language is an invented technology, a relatively young upstart. So language didn't start with writing. Yeah. And writing is evolving to a fly by the seat of your pants stream. What do you mean? Uh, Okay, so one tip I want to say about learning English, for example, or another language. Like if you guys watch movies, I mean, when I was young, I watched a lot of movies. American movies, like superhero movies. Back in the day, there's no superhero movies yet. Superhero movies didn't really begin until like year 2000, when you have X-Men, the first X-Men. Well, there's a couple of Superman before, but basically, not like today. You have all the superheroes, but so when you watch movies, make sure, okay, this is a good. Make sure that you always turn the subtitle off. You know, like watching movies is just an entertainment, right? So don't worry about not understand not understanding what the movie is about. It's just entertainment. So turn the subtitle off. When you watch a movie, I mean, if you want to learn the language, if you want to improve your listening skills, turn the subtitle off. Never watch a subtitle. Just listen. Just don't worry about. Don't like you don't even have to like think like that. Oh, I'm going to learn English. Therefore, I'm going to like just let it play. Yeah, one of the important skill in sharpening your listening skill is that for example, just turn on the radio. If you are learning Spanish, for example, just turn on the radio, put it on a Spanish station, and just let it play every day. Just let it play. Like you don't have to. Don't even think about trying to understand or you are learning. No, forget about it. Just let it play in the background. A language that actually the sound actually gets into your brain. Then even after a week you'll notice some phrase that appear often. Then you can look up. Then after you can like immediately repeat it. You can like just repeat the phrase, but you don't know what it means. That's okay. Just first of all, then you can look up. Of course, you can look up or ask your Spanish friends or but that's an important thing to learn listening skills. Just let the language play. That's and when you watch movies, yeah, don't turn on subtitle. Just let it play and you watch, especially movie, especially TV drama. Okay, for example, if you want to learn Chinese, there are thousands, 10,000, millions of Chinese TV dramas, and besides movies, there's kung fu movies, but besides kung fu movies, there's like 10,000, millions of Chinese TV dramas of all kinds, or Japanese anime. A lot of you probably watch Japanese anime, so you turn off the subtitle, just let it play when you want to learn Japanese. So that's a good thing to do. Now the other thing is that okay, listening and speaking skills, they too are different. So when you keep listening, maybe you can understand the language, but if you never speak, if you don't speak much, you will not improve your speaking skills much, because speaking skills is about your shaping your mouth, to be proficient about pronouncing, shaping your muscles and changing them quickly to fit that language. So if you do not speak much, you don't gain that skill. You don't gain speaking skill. So again, don't think that learning languages, you can just read a lot or they all come together. No, if you just read, you don't have listening or speaking skills. If you just listen, you don't have speaking skills. Meaning that when you speak, the natives, the language speak, they don't understand you because your pronunciation is just wrong. It's too much off. So you have to practice that. Uh, uh, so yeah. So I think that's about it. That's what I have to say about languages. Listen, learning a foreign language. These days there are tons of YouTube videos, like thousands. They teach you languages. They talk about linguistics. I mean, there's so many things. Okay, so they are linguistic experts. For example, let's go to YouTube. For example, linguistics. Actually, I subscribe to this guy. Uh, let's look at. So, how many people are watching? So, guys, say something, okay? Let me know what you think, and let me know your comments, opinions, and what's the next topic we're gonna talk about. So, Isaac says, "Do you know anything about 客家话?" Hakka? No, not really. Is that your family background? No, I don't really know that dialect. That's a dialect of Chinese and spoken mostly in Taiwan, I think. Yeah, I was confused about that. I can understand most Taiwanese or Fujian dialect, but not that, I think. Not 客家话、广东话或者是台湾话，大部分都可以听得懂。Yeah, so I understand Cantonese and uh, Taiwanese, but I don't see, I don't speak them. Not, pretty bad, just a little. So let's look at. So there is the. So are you learning Chinese, Isaac? So by the way, so Chinese, so Chinese. If you want to learn speaking and understanding Chinese, that's not too hard. Okay, that's well, it's probably harder than if you learn Spanish from for Americans. It's easier to learn Spanish than learning Chinese. But however, still, if we are talking about listening and speaking Chinese, it's not too hard. Okay, you just want to practice again. Like I said before, uh, there are a lot YouTube that teaches Chinese. I'll get to into that. Uh, okay, so it's not really hard, but however, the hard part about Chinese is the reading and writing. That is very very hard. That's tremendous hard. You have to spend 5 years. Let's say you study 2 years, 2 hours a day every day. Then after 5 years, maybe you can read like maybe 60% of newspapers. Okay, maybe because Chinese writing, Chinese, they are you have to know at least 3,000 characters. So here is Chinese example. For example, these are characters, and there is no unifying theme about Chinese characters. Uh, Not really. Okay, there's some way to categorize, Chinese characters by radicals, so-called radicals, which is part of the character. But they are in general. There's no. It's not a systematic. It's not like something like alphabet. You just put, letters, different combinations. It's not like that at all. And in practice, basically every character is just different. There is no consistency. Not really. Okay, you basically you have to learn 3,000 characters, just character by character by rote. You just have to memorize them. That's how we learned it. All Chinese. I was born in Taiwan. I grew up in Taiwan until 14 years old. Um, so that's that's how we learn Chinese. You just from middle school, grade school, middle school, high school. You learn them every day. And then you learn the characters. You practice writing them. Uh, and that's how you know. And 3,000 characters is like the minimum to be able to get a sense of a Chinese newspaper. Like what they are talking about, and that's just minimal. Well, to actually understand Chinese newspapers, you have to know at least 5,000 to understand, let's say, 98% of it. So yeah, so learning Chinese, the writing, reading part is that's quite difficult. That's even for Chinese. I mean, I haven't written Chinese for like 10 years, for like 30 years. Actually, I can show you me writing Chinese with this uh, device. Maybe we can show that. Let me show you that some of that because it's fun. Because well, especially I mean, if you are American or you never seen it, so it might be fun to show you how it's done. For example, let's go to a Chinese website. Okay, and I learned, when I left Taiwan in 1986, around there, I wait, not Weibo. So here's a Chinese website. It's all Chinese characters. It's just like a news website for English. You understand all the words. I do. I can. Zanko. Wait. Wow. Shit. Auto click. Let's turn that off. Let's go back. Well, actually, let's just go to Baidu. Baidu is like a search engine, a big search engine used in China. From China, it's like comparable to Google in Western countries. So here's Baidu, and what I want to search. You can type English. Let's say keyboard. Okay, so you got a bunch of so okay, so since I typed English, it's guessing that it's someone who wants to understand the English word keyboard. So it gives you kind of like it shows a dictionary. So I'm going to read it. You know, so 键盘键琴电子琴，用键盘输入，用键盘式排字机排字，用键盘进行操作，做键盘式排字机排字。So it says keyboard or piano keyboard or electronic keyboard like music keyboard, musical keyboard, and or as a verb, uh, transitive verb. It means typing, using a keyboard to input, using a keyboard to arrange characters, and so on. But let's see, so keyboard is a boring topic. Let's try to okay. Now let's try to type keyboard in Chinese. So you can see I just switched my input system to pinyin right here, and let me type it. Okay, that's the word for keyboard. It's pronounced 键盘, so it's pan, pan. So 键盘, that's a pronunciation for, that's how you type Chinese. Okay, so the first one is what I want, and there we have it. So if I type Chinese, the website assumes I'm looking for keyboard, so it's showing me all this keyboard. Yeah, these are Chinese. There's many Chinese websites selling keyboards and so on. Different brands. This brand is like this Corsair. I think that's Corsair. Yes. So many. Oh, this one is Logitech. It's the Logitech G610. So yeah. So but let's see news. Okay. Let's type Trump. Let's see what news they got. Chinese. Chuan. Okay, I think yeah, that one. 川普. Oops. Uh, I'm not very skilled in typing Chinese because when I was in Taiwan, there's no, I don't know computers, and in fact, Chinese input system, I'm not sure there was before. Back in 1985, there probably was, but it was not popular. PC, personal computers just started barely. So, but I learned typing Chinese around 2005, just by reading and learning it. So I can type Chinese, but I can write Chinese, of course, because I grew up in Taiwan. So here is the Trump. I just typed Trump in Chinese, Trump's name. So here you can see. Uh, so here's news. Trump's latest news. Let's see, which one should we pick? Okay, here is a clickbait. This one says Trump why 川普为什么跌了心要和中国打一场贸易战？铁了心。Okay, it says why Trump has a iron heart to go to war with to go to economic war with China. And this is from Australia newspaper. So this is 2018 March. Let's see what it says. So apparently this is a newspaper from Australia, and they are published in Chinese. Let's magnify. So there it is. That's stuff. So let's read some comment, and I'm going to show how to write Chinese. I'm gonna show you that, but let's read the comment. Yes, I'm okay at Cantonese and Mandarin. Okay, so you can speak them. Great. So Danielle says, news, type Assange arrested. Yeah, in Chinese or in English? Uh, Nickname, who do you subscribe? You didn't finish the topic. What do you mean? Like, who do I subscribe? Oh yeah, yeah, the linguistics. Thank you for reminding me. So I'm going to show you how to write Chinese, and now let's go back. Okay, let's write it down. Let's go back. Okay, just write Chinese and show YouTube on Chinese linguistics. Let me gonna show you that thing, and one more thing is shit, I already forgot. Yeah, okay. So let's go back to YouTube. So there are a lot, huge amount of things on YouTube, and a lot language related channels. Some of them, they teach you a language like Spanish or Chinese. There are some channels that teach you Chinese, how to speak Chinese. I haven't watched that much, and there are actually a lot of Americans or English speakers who lives in China, and they have a channel, and they talk about, of course they have learned Chinese. They lived in China for many years, so they talk about Chinese culture, sometimes in Chinese, sometimes in English, sometimes they teach you. Let me show you a few. Okay. um so actually, so maybe it's here. Science, consumer electronics, classic music. What is this? Google shows you all these suggestions. Okay, here is a guy. Okay, he's very popular. He's extremely popular, like millions of followers. So he's a guy from South Africa. South Africa is a country's name. In the southern tip of Africa, basically, and their language is English. So he's from there, and he lived in China for like 10 years. So his channel is, how many people? Oh, he only got 500,000 people subscribers. Well, that's big enough. So he lives, now he do YouTube as his profession. He's because so he lived in China for 10 years. So I think all his videos are in English, but he talks about China, and all kind of things, Chinese girls, culture, and whatever. So very popular. So if you are interested in China, I recommend it. But however, lots of the titles are clickbaits. I hate that. But anyway, it's worth watching. He's got hundreds of videos, so you can check it out. I've watched like 10 or 20 of them. But I was going to show you. Okay, let's honestly try to find that linguistic I recently subscribed to. Like once you subscribe to one of these channels, then you will find related one easier. Like once you subscribe to a channel that's focused on teaching Chinese, for example, then you'll find like other people's channels doing the same thing. You'll start to find. So this girl, she's American and she lived in China for a number of years. So she speaks Chinese. So sometimes in her video, she'll speak Chinese, maybe partially or something. So you might subscribe to her. And there are a lot others. I noticed because YouTube there are billions of videos. You don't, once you look into, then you discover like an entire new world. I'm pretty sure there are quite a lot, tens or hundreds, of them. So right now my goal is to find that linguistics guy. Okay, that guy is another Chinese, very famous in China. He's a Canadian, so he went to China and lived there, and he's now doing comedy, like stand-up comedy. Well, let me show you. He's trying to introduce stand-up comedy to Chinese audience because China, the tradition of Chinese culture, we don't have stand-up comedy. I mean, this format doesn't exist, but he's trying to do that. Um, so this guy you might subscribe, and so what's his name? Okay, Land Focus. This guy. Now this guy, he is a linguist, language expert. He does not really teach Chinese, but rather he's a linguist. So he study all the world's languages. So he tells you, he talks about Spanish, Turkish, easy which language is the easiest to learn, Irish, all of them. He also talks about Chinese, like I watched his video on Chinese, and often, I mean, even I speak Chinese, right? I grew up in Taiwan, of course, for 14 years. So, but often when you hear them talk, then I learn new things because they are linguists. So they teach you something. Like if you're American and you listen one day to a linguist talking about English, you'll learn a lot of things you don't notice because you know the language so well, you speak it, every day. But the linguistics, a linguist, especially whose first language is not English, but he is a linguist, he studied languages, their formation, their history, comparative linguistics, and so on, then when he talks about English, you learn, you hear, oh wow, I didn't know that. The grammar, the irregularities, and so on. So it's a similar phenomenon. Phenomenon. So anyway, this guy is a linguist. So he talk about lots of things. Now, I do not know. I actually do not know. I have seen them, but I actually do not know offhand YouTube channels that teaches Chinese. But I've seen them. I'm pretty sure. Um, let's say learning Chinese. I'm pretty sure Chinese for beginners. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there are tons of them. There's just search for learning Chinese or Chinese for beginners. As an example, if you are interested in Spanish or French, same thing in Germany, you can try to learn it. That's one way. Then I'm going to next topic is I'm going to show you how to write Chinese for fun. So Isaac says, "Who is the stand-up comedy person?" Joe Wong. No, no, it's this guy. His name is oops. Let's see. Okay. His name is for the Da San. His name is Da San. Very popular, like recognized by China, even Chinese news media. He's very well known. Canadian who lives for a while. I think he worked as a ambassador for Canada in China. To you know. But anyway, yeah. So this guy. So let me read the comments. British police arrested a bearded and shouting Julian Assange. Yeah, well, we can talk about Assange. Maybe in the end, you know, who is a stand-up comedy person? Okay, nickname. Uh, so Haiksa, I just came here to ask that I would like to see a show on math and art stuff. Okay, great. Uh, Today is probably too late. How long I've been talking? 1 hour. Yeah. So let me do that. Let me plan to do that tomorrow also. Yeah, I need to get on a schedule. Like, I publish my schedule, like what time, on what date. Uh, First of all, a schedule. Then also maybe topics. So on this day, I'll talk about that topics, and on another day, I'll be talking about non-technical topics or whatever. That would be good. So I guess now let's show some Chinese characters. Let me write it. So not here. Let's go to, let's see. Okay, this works. File, new. But first of all, I need to turn off the auto click. I have auto click on, meaning that when I move my mouse to when my mouse stops moving, it clicks automatically. But sometimes it's annoying. So okay, that's too big. Let's see. Opacity. Let's first of all pick a pen. Let's say a size. Okay, it's not smooth because I guess because I have my CPU is maxed out. Okay, but still we can write Chinese. For example, let's write this Japanese on the you know. So I'm going to duplicate some of the the Chinese characters. Um, so that's this character. So I'm going to write these two character. Actually, I'm not. It's kind of slow, so I'm not. So let's see. This I'm gonna write those. Okay, it looks like I need to adjust size, aspect ratio. Yeah, it's not fast. Wait, I don't want dynamic. Okay, I have to write slowly because otherwise they don't. Um, so there it is. 文字性 ah it's not fun if you cannot write it fast because then you don't see the scribbles. I mean, you don't see, for example, A B C. Okay, A B C D. Because if you write it fast, you can see. Yeah, yeah. So you have to write slowly. You can see. Yeah, it's no good. But anyway, well, it's no good because I think because my CPU is maxed out. Hold on a second. Let me quit that and see if that helps. No, not really. Pressure thickness. Uh, okay, now it's a bit better, but nah, it's still missing strokes. Anyway, so that's Chinese. So let's see. Yeah, that's Chinese. So for example, well, anyway, let's go back. So Isaac says, have you heard of the Changjie Chinese input? Yeah, of course. But I don't use it. I use pinyin. So for writing Chinese, you have. Let me show you. Okay, so let me talk about more about Chinese then. So if you guys have any questions, comments, just post it. Okay, we are about done today. It's over an hour. So let me talk about a bit more about Chinese. Yeah, because that's all I have to say about languages. But since I know Chinese, I can tell you a bit more about Chinese. Um, yeah, writing and to learn writing Chinese and reading Chinese, it's quite hard. Actually, you in Emacs you can also learn how to input Chinese in Emacs, pure Emacs. I have an article here. You can try to read it, and you can actually type Chinese even if you know nothing about Chinese. You just follow these instructions and you will see. Now, and you can also, if you are on a Mac or on Windows, you can type Chinese in any editor or in browser. All you have to do is just to switch to a Chinese input method. Basically on the Mac, it's like you just go to your keyboard control panel and add Chinese. So let me introduce you a little bit about Chinese input methods, meaning that it's a way to type Chinese using a keyboard. Uh, Chinese is not like it's not alphabet based. So so to type the thousands of characters, you cannot just press a key. There's no 1,000, 3,000 keys. But what do you do is use a input method system, input method, and there are like more than 20. There are like more than 10, like 20 different input methods. Why? Because over the years, people try to create input system to type Chinese, and because Chinese is not like English. It's not based on alphabet, which is simple. For English, all you have is different type of layout. Like where do you place the letters? We have QWERTY, then we have Vorak, and we have few others. But for Chinese, it's not as simple as that. So people have invented many different incompatible methods to input to type Chinese. But all of them are basically can be classified into two groups. One is phonetic based, meaning that you type a character's pronunciation, how it sounds. Then it pops up choices. Then you pick the character. That's a phonetic based system. The other one is a character based system, meaning that you type certain keys. That's the stroke based on the how the character appears, based on the character's stroke. you know uh, and there are many different systems. Some takes the corners of the characters. It's a stroke based system, and typically that system is usually more difficult to learn, but usually more efficient, meaning less keystrokes to type a character. So there are these two categories: phonetic based and stroke based system. But however, the most popular. Okay, so in the phonetic system, then there are many different ones. Okay, yeah, just because it's so Taiwan usually use a system called 注音 or 波波摩佛, and but in China it's used a system called pinyin. Let's see where I if you read the article you'll see the details. So anyway, phonetic system, then there are many different ones. Then the character based system, there are also many different ones. Now one of the character based system used in Taiwan is called 仓颉, which is what Isaac has mentioned. Which you can see, this is Apple's keyboard sold in Taiwan, and you can see for each key there are three characters on it. Two of them Chinese. Okay. Now the upper right is a Chinese phonetic system used in Taiwan called 注音 or 波波摩佛. And the lower right corner, you'll see these characters. They are 仓颉. Yeah. So they are character-based input system. I never learned it. So yeah, so that's the basic about Chinese input systems. I learned, and also in China or Taiwan, vast majority of people they actually use the phonetic based system because that's actually the easiest to learn, because you don't have to. All you have to know is how a word is pronounced, like speech. You don't even have to know how to write Chinese. If you can speak Chinese, you can input it, you can type it. You just type, the how the word sounds, and the characters come out. Yeah, so most Chinese uses a phonetic system, and almost all of them in China use a pinyin system, but in Taiwan, most of them use the 注音 system. So that's about that. Isaac. So Isaac, anything else? Anything interesting? So guys, if you have questions, just type it. Okay. So what else about languages or about Chinese? So yeah, so here is an example of Chinese characters. They are uh, simplified versus traditional Chinese characters. So the deal is that basically in China, around 1950, the the Chinese government, they created, they try to simplify characters. And this page is a comparison. You can see, these two are the same character. These two are the same character. Let me magnify. Black and white. I have two characters in comparison. Um, and the one in black background is the simplified version. They want to simplify because back then the thought, China is trying to modernize, the country, and it's a common thought among academia that Chinese is too complicated, the writing system, and in order for China to modernize, to jump into the modern society, to create atom bombs and rockets, and computers, you have to simplify the Chinese characters so Chinese people can learn, they can progress, they can, education will improve and so on. So they began with, created the simplified characters. Um, so that's how they, so this page is basically a list of all the simplified characters. There are about 500 of them. So I grew up in Taiwan. So Taiwan does not really use simplified characters. So I learned simplified characters just by, I created this page partly to help me learning. So these days I use mostly simplified. Hey, good morning, informatic. So informatics. So we are about done. Actually, yeah, today 70 minutes. I think we are done here. Um, what's up, informatic? Any other questions? Avodo, avocadoras. It's from avocado and Pythagoras, as in Pythagorean theorem. So what's up? So I have an interest in languages, and also I learned Spanish for a year when I was in South America, and I didn't really learn French when I was in Canada. I lived in Canada for 3 years because I didn't learn French because the French people, they kind of want you to learn French, and I'm rebellious, so that's why I didn't learn French. But I lived in Canada for 3 years. You kind of pick up, some French, and I hope to learn. But yeah, I'm kind of getting old, and there are so many things in math, um, and theoretical computer science, like proof theory, I want to learn. So informatics says late for the show, like always. Yeah, I should have a schedule, but what time is it over there in Morocco, right? So it's like 9 p.m., right? So anyway, okay, so that's about it for today. Thank you guys for coming. Oh, it's 24 o'clock, so it's 10 o'clock in Morocco. So see you guys until next time.